Hey, espresso lovers, Marc here from WholeLatteLove.com. Today, an in-depth look at the E6X grinder from Ceado. The E6X sits in a similar price range to the venerable Mazzer Mini Doser and the often recommended Baratza Vario. Now, stick around for the end of the video where I'll compare specs and go over some other reasons why you might choose the E6X over the Mini or the Vario. So the basics, the Ceado E6X is a commercial-style dosing grinder for serious espresso grinding. It features Ceado's Steady Lock system, which until now was only available on their more expensive grinders. Steady Lock maintains a constant space between the grinding burrs for more consistent particle size when grinding. On the outside, the E6X has a minimalist design. A simple on-off button, grinding and dosing adjustments are the only controls. The case is all metal with plastic trim at the bottom. It's a large grinder that fits in small spaces. It's just 17.5 inches high with its shorter bean hopper, which has a 600-gram capacity. The dosing chamber has a 220-gram capacity. Dosing ranges from 5.5 to 9 grams per pull and is very easy to adjust via a raised knob. Now, in many dosing grinders, some finger contortions are required to reach that adjustment. The dosing lever has a nice solid feel to it, and the return spring has a lifetime guarantee. Grind size is adjusted with a stepless ring up top. Now, there are 3 screws and 1 knob on the ring. The knob can be turned in to lock in a grind size. Now, the screw can be turned in to limit adjustment to 1 360-degree turn of the collar. The other 2 screws attach the collar to the adjustment ring. Burr access is simple. Just loosen the adjustment stop and remove the adjustment limit screw and turn to the coarse setting until it comes off. Grinding is handled by 64mm flat burrs spinning at 1400 RPM, powered by a 300-watt motor. In the grinding chamber, you'll find extras like a smooth rounded top nut on the motor shaft for smoothed out bean flow and a sealing ring below the top burr, which helps to stop coffee from getting into the adjustment threads, which would otherwise bind them and make adjustment more difficult. Run into that on a lot of grinders. Now, calibrating the grinder after cleaning is very straightforward. First, replace the sealing and spring rings and replace the top burr aligning the notch. Place the adjustment collar on. Now, the trick to avoiding cross-threading the adjustment collar on this and other similar grinders is to first turn to a coarse adjustment until you feel or hear those threads drop down. Then turn to a finer setting. Now, if you feel any resistance, turn back towards coarse and try again. Whatever you do, take your time and don't force anything. Grinder adjustment threads are very fine, and cross-threading them can cause permanent damage. With the threads lined up, turn the grinder on and continue turning until you hear the burrs touch, and then back off slightly, and that's your 0 or finest grind setting. From there, you can realign the adjustment collar in quarter-turn increments if you like by removing the 2 screws, turning the ring, and replacing those screws. Just be aware you can't always position the 0 indication exactly where you want, as the screw holes only line up in quarter-turn increments. The bean hopper has a shut-off allowing for removal without dumping beans everywhere. As mentioned, the dosing lever has a nice solid feel. A robust fork holds a portafilter in place, but there's no hook, so you do have to hold the portafilter handle when dosing. When dosing, coffee falls nicely into the center of the portafilter. Any grind spillage is caught by a removable tray held in place by a raised lip. That tray tilts out for emptying without tilting the entire grinder. When grinding, the E6X is smooth and quiet. Ceado rates the grinder for continuous use in service of a 2-group espresso machine. Here's a look at some grinds from the E6X. On the left is a very fine setting, which is very close to the finest possible. Here's a coarser setting in the press or maybe cold brew range. Now, being a dosing grinder, we'd expect most would use the E6X exclusively for espresso. So, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned discussing why you might pick the E6X over popular grinders like the Mazzer Mini Doser or the Baratza Vario. All are very close in price. What you get on the E6X compared to the Mazzer are bigger burrs at 64mm versus 58, a more powerful motor at 300 watts versus 250, potentially better grind quality with Ceado's Steady Lock system, and easier cleaning. Now, I'm not a fan of those 3 little springs that carry the top burr on most Mazzer grinders, and I think the Ceado does a better job of keeping grinds out of the threads, which makes for smoother and easier grind size adjustment. And as for manufacturer guarantees, well, it's 1 year on the Mazzer and 3 years on the Ceado, plus that lifetime guarantee on the Doser return spring. Now, the Baratza Vario is often recommended as the entry into higher-end grinding for home espresso, but if you're doing strictly espresso, especially if you're doing lots of it, you may want to consider the E6X. Bigger burrs generally mean better grinding quality, and the Ceado's 64mm burrs beats the Vario's 54. Beyond that, the Ceado is just more robust. Its 300-watt motor is far stronger than Baratza's 180 watts. The Ceado has prosumer-level commercial-style construction, built for years of heavy and dependable use. The Vario, on the other hand, is intended solely for home use. Now, that all said, the E6X is an espresso grinding specialist. If you switch up brew methods and are not strictly higher volume espresso, the Vario is going to be more adaptable. Now, if you have more questions on the Ceado E6X or anything coffee, just ask in the comments below and we'll be sure to get you the answers. The Ceado E6X is available now at WholeLatteLove.com. I'm Mark. Thanks for watching, and I do hope you'll come back soon for more on Everything Coffee. Hey, why not subscribe now for easy free access to more videos on Everything Coffee, brought to you by WholeLatteLove.com.